All right, my renowned fam, Merry Christmas and welcome back to the Renowned Leadership Podcast. I am so excited to bring you this special Christmas Day episode. And what better person to have with me than the person named after what this holiday is all about, whether you celebrate Christmas, Kwanzaa, whatever it is. I am joined today by Joy. I'm going to let you say your last name because
Meserve.
Meserve, Joy Meserve. Thank you so much for being here with me today, Joy. And real quick, just go ahead and break down who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. Well, I'm Joy Meserve. I'm a leadership coach and business consultant. And I want to help executives develop leaders so that they can create more joyful workplace cultures that are high performing, fulfilling, and all the best attributes where we can drive both profits and people's growth.
I love the name of your website. Your website is Leading with Joy. And that is incredible because we should be leading with joy. When people like my thing is lead like a champion, and people are always like, Stephen, what does it mean to lead like a
Right.
champion? So what does leading with joy mean to you?
Yeah, so for me, it means really squeezing all the juice out of going to work, right? We spend 1/3 of our lives in workplaces and doing work. So why not make that a place where you are enjoying yourself? And what I've found is that joy comes from fulfillment. And fulfillment comes from utilizing our powers to their fullest potential. And what I've also found is it takes leaders to really pull that out of their people to say, hey, I see this strength in you. I see this interest. So is this part of your Zota genius? Is this one of your special talents? And if it is, let's move toward that. And I also have discovered too that some people don't even know what those special talents are. And as a leader, should always be observing and aware who's doing what and what are they good at, right? So you can help them develop that mastery.
It's funny because I complain to my wife all the freaking time, man. Like all the time. Why don't you listen to me? Like I will say something and then like her dad will say the exact same thing that I said, but she listens to her dad, or my dad will say it and she listens to my dad or whatever. And it's like, I
Right.
said that. Why didn't you listen to me? Like, ah, and it's so interesting because we need that those people that really see into us that can pull those things out and that we respect, that we trust, that we listen to. And I think it's so important that as leaders we're doing that, right? I mean, one of my big things that I harp on religiously, and you can my listeners are probably tired of hearing me say it all the time, is the sole purpose of a leader is to create a whole bunch of mini yous.
Yes.
That's the sole purpose. And that's exactly how you do that is by cultivating an environment where people can just learn and find that internal drive, that internal purpose, their internal passions and
Mhm.
their skills. What advice do you give companies, corporations, leaders on creating that environment?
Yeah. So it starts with not just feeling like, well, if I'm a leader, these people here need to earn my trust. I think that's one style of leadership that the people are there to earn your respect and earn your trust. I feel it's at the opposite. I'm going to give you my trust. And
Mhm.
until you break that trust, you have my trust. So it is, I hired you for this job. There was a job description. Okay, great. You're doing the job and you have my trust in doing that. We hired you for a reason. There was, you went through this process. We didn't just,
Yeah.
pick some random off the street and say, hey, are you good with developing software? Right? So so we should already be giving them our trust. And when you, as the person on that receiving end, feel trusted, you feel free, right? You don't feel like I'm being put in a box, or I'm being micromanaged, or somebody's big brothering me and looking from above. So I feel like I might mess up. And if I mess up, that's going to be bad. No, right? If you're trusted to do your work. And what follows from that is creativity, innovation, right? When people feel seen, they feel heard and valued for who they are and what they bring to the table. So many good things come from that because they're operating usually in a place of flow.
hmm And so I got lit up on LinkedIn for this a while back. I made a LinkedIn post about leaders need to be vulnerable, and we
Mm,
need to be able to express our mistakes and openly and admittedly, and like, yeah, I screwed up. I perceived this, or I did this, or whatever the case is, and I made a mistake, and I got destroyed. And
really?
yeah, people did not like it because they started talking. Well, if you work in an environment where that's not acceptable, and it's like my response to them was, well, if you work in an environment where that's not acceptable, you're working in the wrong environment.
Right.
Because that's I love what you said about leaders have to give trust. However, leaders themselves have to earn the trust,
Yes.
right? We can't
Yes.
expect our people to just trust us. We
That's
have
right.
to prove to them that we're trustworthy. And what you were talking about the environment where creativity can flow, there has to be room for mistakes because they're going to screw
Yes.
up. We all
Yeah.
screw up. Creating this podcast, I've screwed up so many times. I had to have room to do that so I could learn what not to do, what to do, how to do certain things. If I lived in an environment where I couldn't make those mistakes, I would have never learned. I would have never improved, and my results would have been the same, constant, and there would have been no
Right.
growth.
Right.
So when it comes to being transparent, how do leaders safely do that? Because I understand the people that were hitting me on LinkedIn, I understand their point. Like, it's dangerous, it feels scary. How do you do that in a safe way, do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's about transparency. I think transparency is really important. And, so if I make a mistake, I think my approach was always, I'm so sorry. I missed this, right?
Right.
And that's on me. That's not on you. So, however, here we are. And so we need to move forward. We need to fix it. And like we'll do a deep dive, later on how this all evolved. And as the leader, you are ultimately accountable. So for you to say as a leader, I didn't make a mistake, even if one of your people made a mistake, you made a mistake
Right.
because it is your job to set very clear direction.
hmm
It's to provide clarity. And if you're like, well, I sent an email and they just didn't do it, so that's not on me, it's on them. Okay, well, you sent an email. Did you talk them through it? Did you ask if they had any questions? Did you also, provide some sort of I don't know, a rubric for them to follow? Was there a visual? There's so many things that we can do to help communicate and set antecedents. Was there a training process that they went through, right? There's so many more things we can do to make sure our people are successful in the things that we're asking them to do, setting expectations and all of that. Good communication, clarity. But if you weren't clear, it is actually on you, right?
Absolutely.
If you weren't watching the numbers when they came in, it is actually on you, right? So I think it's just, I'm sorry I missed it,
Yeah.
but we're here now.
Absolutely. And it's funny because not not only is it your fault, if your people mess up, not only is it your fault, but it's also your responsibility to be their buffer.
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
That's why I think it's so important
Yes.
that that you own their mistakes, so that they're buffered from the people above you,
Yeah.
or the people around them. And like that is, in my opinion, that's one of the most important responsibilities as a leader, because again, when you're the buffer, you're creating that safe space for them to
That's right.
explore and to really engage and try to figure out, problem solve, grow, and do all
Mhm.
those things.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that looks like, you have a conversation with your boss and you're like, "Yeah, so we missed this. It was my bad on this part and this part." And they're like, "Well, isn't it so and so's fault? Like, isn't it, aren't they not performing and what's the deal with them?" And it's like, "Here's what I'm doing." Right? "Here's what I'm doing to correct that, in that here's the feedback I'm delivering, here's the new process me and my team are creating together. Here's what we're doing now." It's not about the past, right? It's about, I think, there's feedback, and then there's this term called feed forward. And that's how I
Hmm.
interpret feed forward, is like we're moving forward in this. Like there's no use looking back on the past and the mistakes. We all owned up to it. And that's the end of that. Once you own up to it, I don't think there's any more that you owe except for fixing, right? Going forward.
Right. So one of the things well, here's a great example. Um, I got a new puppy, and she's a little
Oh,
German Shepherd. She's 12 weeks old. She's adorable.
oh,
And took her to the vet and walked into the vet, and instantly the receptionist, her name was Lisa, just smiled, was excited to see my puppy. Her name's Era. Um, was excited to see the puppy, was excited that we're there. There was just joy, just happiness, just
mhm,
gratitude. Great environment to walk into,
yeah,
especially, it's kind of stressful because, pups,
yeah.
animals in general, they aren't happy about being at the vet.
No, they sense that.
So,
Yeah.
right. So, I mean, great environment. And the workplace, whether you're working on an assembly line or you're working in an IT office or whatever the case may be, especially the more stressful the job itself is, because certain jobs come with inherent stress, doctors, police, things like that. Having that joyful, gracious work environment is so key to keeping your workplace healthy. Can you talk about what the ideal joyful workplace looks like?
Sure, sure. I mean, I grew up in one. I was very lucky to be the third person hired on to a startup. I stayed there 22 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And the reason I stayed there 22 years was hands down the people. I mean, we had a great mission. I had autonomy. I had purpose. I had, goals that I was achieving. There was a lot of achievement going around, but it was absolutely working with the people. And so I know what a joyful workplace culture looks like. We won some awards and things like that for cultures voted by the employees. But it is when people love to come to work because they're working on something they want to do, because they are recognized for their contribution, because you're having fun in meetings, humor. It's important, right? We have to sit in so many Zoom meetings. Why not crack a few jokes and, like, talk about things and talk about the puppy and what the silly thing the puppy did yesterday was, and just, you know, and sometimes in the most stressful situations, we're dealing with a crisis. We're fumbling our way through. It's okay to laugh at yourselves and be like, "Oh my God, what are we doing? This is crazy." And I've had so many of those conversations, especially with the VP of HR, right? It's like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is all happening." And you just sometimes have to laugh about it.
I have the perfect example for that, in the military, for the most part, in my experience anyway. The like, I can remember a time where we were in a firefight, which obviously super dangerous, super high stress, um, craziness going on around you. Imagine the most chaotic thing you've ever seen in your life, multiply it by 100, and that's about what it's like. and something happened, and which I can't really talk about, but something happened, and we're all just sitting there looking at each other like, what just happened? And we just died laughing, and there's explosions, bullets popping around, like, but we're just laughing our butts off. And obviously, that's an extreme example, but you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. The worse it gets, that's when humor can really lift you up, lighten your spirits, and
Yeah.
help you push forward. Because
Yeah.
when that stress, when you start feeling it, that's when the gas tank starts getting really depleted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And it's the people around you that are helping. That's always lovely, right? When you feel like you have people who will back you up, who will support you, who will come in and help. I once had to mobilize a team of people inside the company to do work that was not on their job description. It wasn't on their day-to-day to-do list. I had to mobilize 18 people to come and help solve this issue that was partly my fault for not staying on top of the numbers, right? I'm ultimately responsible. Didn't realize people were missing goals, had to bring them in to help hire individuals at the last minute. They spent a month doing this, adding to-do lists, adding these tasks to their list. And the reason they did it was out of loyalty, respect, understanding that their contribution would matter to this, understanding the bigger purpose, the bigger picture, that we're all in this together, that this is like, they owned
Well,
the company, not just owned their little job and their little spot, right?
what was that conversation between you and them like, when you're like,
Yeah, asking all 18 people individually. Yeah, I mean, it was, this has happened, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, no way." Yeah. So, like, they immediately understood the seriousness and the level of the issue, and were like, "How can I help?" I didn't even have to ask.
really?
Yeah.
That's so awesome. I see why you stayed there for
Yeah.
22 years.
Yeah.
How sad was it when you left?
Oh, it was sad. I got the most beautiful video from people expressing, their feelings about me leaving, and it was really heartfelt. I was crying. One girl wrote a song just for me and sang it. So yeah, it was really special. I wanted to add one more thing that I think that this joyful culture is made of, and I think it's a little more practical for our leaders out there, which is positive feedback, gratitude, expressing that. And I'm constantly telling leaders that I coach, slow down. And they're like, Joy, that's like the opposite of like what business function is supposed to do. We're supposed to go fast, right? We're
Right.
supposed to, you know, run at the highest speed we can. And I'm saying slow down to say thank you. And not just thank you, right? It's got to be really specific and deep. You have to show them that you're seeing what they do. You're
Hmm.
seeing the contribution they made, the very specific things that they've just been spending the last day or months doing, what you loved about it, and also what the impact of that beautiful thing they did has on the bigger picture of the organization, has on their professional growth, has on you as a person. I mean, you can pick any of those things or all of those things to share with them, and it slows you down in an email, in a conversation, in picking up the phone, right? And just saying, look, I just saw that you did this, and I'm floored. It's amazing. It's wonderful. And if you teach people how to do that, not just managers, right? But every single person in the company, from the individual contributors to the managers, to the directors, to the VPs, to the executive team, if you teach everybody to do that, everybody all day long, at some point, somebody is going to get some positive reinforcement that day about
Right.
what they're doing. And that's just that extra bit of fuel to keep you going.
Yeah, I love that. And slowing down applies more to just that. It is one of the things I used to teach my soldiers were, when you're in combat, whenever it's real, you have to be able to just take a step back.
Hmm.
And that, like you said, that goes against our instinct because we're in danger, we're being shot at, we have to go.
Right.
But sometimes you just need to take a step back to where you can look at the entire picture and then make a decision. If you're
Right.
just constantly running forward, you're going to miss all the little things that if you would have just stopped for a second, looked around, and then you would have saw like, oh, I can do this thing instead. This will be
Yeah.
much more productive with my team's time or the company's capital or whatever the case may be. Then you can make the correct decision or a better decision.
Yeah.
Slowing down and just taking in the broad picture, the big picture is so crucial, so important for leaders that I
I love
think
that.
gets greatly missed
I
um,
love that. Yeah.
in day to day because we're taught just to go, 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 go. And it's all
Hmm.
about speed and getting there as fast as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree. Speed is important.
Hmm.
In the military, we call it violence of action. Your actions need to be quick, concise, on purpose, but at the same time, without the big picture, without all and that's another thing too, Joy, is I see far too often leaders will do one of two things. They will make a decision based off the bare amount of information they have, or they will get stuck in a habit of indecision because they don't have enough information.
Mm.
We need to be comfortable in making decisions with limited information because
Right.
I would say in a perfect world, we have maybe 60% of the necessary information to make a decision. Let's be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if we only have 10% of the information, we don't have enough. We have to pull that from whatever resources we have. So can you talk about your perspective on that?
Yeah. No, I think it's so key. And I think we can. There was the pandemic, right? Was transformational for all of us. So in my business, I ran summer programs for kids in person at universities around the country. So you can imagine that during the pandemic, summer programs were very much in danger whether or not they were going to happen. So it was December of 2019. I kept hearing the news, coronavirus this, coronavirus that. My husband is like, could you please stop talking about the coronavirus, please? So he was sick of me, but I kept talking about it because I kept saying, like, look, do you see China's completely shut down? Nobody's going into grocery stores. Nobody's allowed out. Like, this is strange. This is weird. And we are a global society. We know that you can pick up viruses on airplanes. How is that not coming here? How
Mhm.
is it getting contained? It's already too big. And so I commissioned a epidemiologist to do a study for us in February of 2020, before the lockdown happened in the US. And they showed that peak of that virus going right through the summer. And I was like, okay, this is a signal. Yet, as I'm going back with this information to the organization, and I think I was like crying wolf, right? Like, hey, we're not going to be able to do our business this summer. So what are we going to do? Let's start thinking about it. It was like, well, we don't know. Joy, let's wait and see. Joy, let's wait and see. Like we don't. So we had a committee that would report on the numbers and where were the numbers, March, April. And so we decided, based on the fact that children were in China learning from school, learning from home, they couldn't go to school, that we would spin up virtual programs that if any of the kids in Asia wanted to come to our virtual programs, it would be something for them to do.
Mhm.
So that was the basis and reasoning behind it. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is for us. We're doing this because our kids in the United States are not going to be able to come to these programs. And so, sure enough, guess how many universities would allow us on their campus?
Hopefully all of them. I don't know.
Zero.
What?
Zero. 2020, zero universities said, come on back. So, and I understood that from a
In person or virtual?
in person. So from a,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
So yeah, no, it's okay. Zero said, come on back in person. So I understood that from a, risk standpoint,
Right.
obviously. The next summer, only 8 or so out of 190 locations. So we said, okay, we're going to keep it virtual. So 2 years we were running virtual tech camps only, solely. And I think what you said about the 10% of information, if you had told me in February, March, I didn't have any more time to make a call, was I going to run in-person camps or not? I would have said no, based on the information I had. But, we kind of drew it out and went for like university to university. Is anybody going to let us? And we got zero. So, but it is that, like, sometimes, sometimes
Hmm.
you already know, and you kind of have to trust those decisions, the information that you're hearing and the information you're getting. Sometimes you do need to trust
Well,
that.
that's so good. Yeah. That
Yeah.
gut instinct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like you said, I mean, I'm reading newspapers, I'm looking for information. I had some, you know.
Hmm.
Um, to your point about the bigger picture and how we sometimes go too fast and we make a decision too fast, I call that nexting.
Nexting.
Nexting,
Okay.
right? So what I heard you saying is we need to slow down and be in present moment awareness. We need to
Right.
make sure
Yeah.
we're really actually here, and we're not just going down a checklist. We're not just thinking about, well, my training says this, I must do this next, the next thing for me to do, or I just need to run out of fear, right?
Hmm.
You're actually assessing, you're in the moment, seeing everything, sensing everything with all of your senses. And that is the opposite of nexting. Nexting is just kind of going blindly to the next thing and not really recognizing where you've been and where you are now.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that a lot. I might have to steal that from you. That's pretty cool.
Sure.
That's awesome. I'll give you credit. Um, no, so what advice do you have for leaders that recognize uh their environment could be more joyful,
Mm,
and yet they feel helpless that they can't change the culture?
yeah. First of all, I want to say I'm sorry and I empathize and I can really understand how that can happen so quickly. And, you may have a really good culture, and then all of a sudden you bring in an outside consultant. I know I'm a consultant, but you might bring in the wrong fit, or you bring in somebody to the company who changes that. And over 22 years, you don't think I saw different changes in, okay, we're really great culture. Now we're a good culture. Now we're struggling. Now we're back to good. Now we're back to great. We had our ups and downs as a culture. And so if you are feeling like there's nothing I can do, I would say that you should bring it up to the executive team.
Mhm.
So I
That's a hard
would,
conversation.
it's a hard conversation, but if you have whatever evidence that you have of this culture suffering is what you need to pinpoint and lead with. Not just it's a feeling or a sense. It's like I'm seeing people burn out. I'm seeing people, not complete their work. I'm seeing people not show up to the events that we throw anymore. I'm seeing, what is it that you're seeing? You're seeing people go off camera for all the Zoom meetings. And
Yeah.
that's, some of those are little signs. It signals that something is not right. And so whoever your supervisor is, start there, see if they will escalate the conversation higher. But hopefully you can take it. And if that doesn't do it, you may have to go to the executive team yourself. And I would suggest, because I feel that everybody has the ability to be an amazing leader. The research shows only 20% of people are naturally born leaders. So that's 80% of the population that needs to learn it. We all have to start somewhere. And if you're already like, hey, no, I'm the 20%, awesome, then that means you probably understand and as that natural born leader, that there's always more to learn, because learning and growing and heading toward mastery and autonomy is the freedom, is the flow, is the fulfillment that you're after, right? And that you want all your people to be going after. So my advice is ask to have a leadership development coach brought in to coach the people, to do some programs that everybody in the company has to go through, from the executive team to the front lines. Get everybody on the same page of whatever that philosophy is. You don't have to go with me, you don't have to go with Steven, right?
Mm-hmm.
But bring somebody in who's going to just teach and educate and give you stories and examples and real tools that you can use on your day-to-day practices.
That's great advice, but this is going to be fun because one of my, I don't want to say pet peeve. One of the things I push back the hardest on, I would say, in my company is the notion that people are naturally born leaders. I disagree. I don't care if you have science. I don't care if you have statistics. People aren't naturally born to be a
Mm-hmm.
specific thing.
Yeah.
I think we are more prone to
Prone.
be
That's a
certain
better word to
things.
use. I agree. Mm-hmm.
But just natural. And when I say that, so hear me out. Charisma, a super useful tool for a
Right.
leader, right? Some people, and great example, I would venture, I would put several $1,000s on the fact that you are naturally more charismatic than I am. Just
I listen, I studied acting in high school. So that's how I came out of my shell.
right.
So I
So
don't even, that was taught to me, right? I think.
okay, fair enough. So I mean, we're born with natural skills that
Sure.
enhance certain things, but I think leadership is one of those things that gets cultivated over time by
Yes.
our parents, grandparents, life experiences, mentors,
Mm,
teachers, all these
mm,
things throughout our life. And I think I don't think Martin Luther King was a natural born leader simply because of he didn't want to do what he was doing. He
right.
just felt the calling to do what he was doing. And so he did it. A
Yeah.
natural born leader, I would think, and correct me if I'm wrong, would automatically just see, okay, I want to do this, right? Like, because that's what things that come natural to us are like. In my experience, I don't know. I could
Yeah.
be wrong, but that's what I
No,
believe.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think I misspoke a little bit. So the research says 20% of people are not natural born leaders, but have the traits and characteristics
Right.
of leaders. Okay. So I just want to correct that too. But no, I think that even for myself, I grew up in that organization from, I had to work my way up. And how I did that was taking on more and more responsibility and giving more and more responsibility away as I grew up to more people and more resources. And all of a sudden I was more like at the top of that pyramid, right?
Right.
But somebody had to tell me I had those qualities because
Right.
I didn't know or think that I had them in me. And that was, I'm trying to trace back when that was. I got a scholarship, I believe, for $4,000 my senior year of high school. And that was a bunch of people, or, elderly people, I will say, around a table that believed in me and awarded me that scholarship. And I was like, wow, what do they see in me? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. But that scholarship made the difference in me being able to live on campus or live off campus.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what my mom said. If you don't get that scholarship, you're not living on campus.
Right.
So, right. So some of those little things. And then I remember I was a Girl Scout camp leader, right? So I instructed at a Girl Scout camp. And at some point they were like, I was just a counselor and they were like, hey, will you be a lead counselor? And I was like, me? Yeah, no, we need, I got promoted midway. And that was just those little signs where somebody believes in you.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody sees something in you and says, I think you can do it. Right. So I mean, I will
So
just
tell me,
say, yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
So tell me this then, because like I'm hearing a lot of positivity in your childhood. I'm not saying it was perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but you're showing all of the example or some of the examples of people that believed in you, encouraged you. There are people that do not have that.
Hmm.
My what I would say to them is go find it. There
Yeah,
are plenty of people out there that would love to mentor you, guide you, give you that encouragement, give you the push that you need. And a lot of them will do it absolutely free just
yeah,
because they want to. But
yeah.
you have to go look for it.
Mm.
Is that okay?
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
fine to go seek that if you don't have it in your life?
Absolutely, absolutely. I would say seek mentors, people who are doing what you want to be doing someday, absolutely. And also seek community. I did not find the power of community until a couple of years ago, and it has been transformational to me and my personal development. Is find some people who are like-minded, but that elevates your game,
Mm-hmm.
right? So maybe you want to belong to, like, you're like, well, I don't know if I could ever be a leader, do some public speaking. Like there are groups out there that are dedicated to teaching that and fostering that. I think there's one called Toastmasters. I've never been a part of it, but there's those kinds of communities. So
Mm-hmm.
find some more communities. And then the last thing I will say is there are people like me who look for people who've gone through some things, challenging things in childhood. So my favorite interview question was, tell me about your first 7 jobs. Walk me through them. I want to know, kind of the picture and what led you from what. And so it's really great if you have a whiteboard because people can whiteboard it out and some draw pictures and it's really fascinating. But tell me about your first 7 jobs. I'm looking for grit. I'm looking for resilience. I'm looking for the time the person said to you, "Hey, do you want to be in charge of this?" Right?
Yeah,
And I'm looking for that experience because I want people who can work hard and are okay working hard because work is hard. It can be fun and fulfilling, but there's also hard parts to it, right? Because life is hard. If you're truly living, life is hard. It's not easy. We
absolutely.
all have our ups and downs and things that we go through and triggers and traumas and things like that. But I would say that I'm looking for that because at the end of the day, I know I get a dedicated team member who's, willing to roll up their sleeves and dig in and do the hard work.
Absolutely. I say all the time that everything in my life that I have that was worth me getting was one of the most, systematically the most difficult I ever did at that time, or most difficult thing I've ever done at that time.
Hmm.
Every single thing from military to my wife, man, she made me work for it. Um,
Good for her.
right? But
She was looking for determination.
right. Well, yeah, commitment, grit, determination, proving, that I am what I say I am.
Right.
And she married me, so I was, effective in doing it. But that it was worth it. It was worth every second of it. I'd do it again if I had to. The same thing in the military. If life is easy for you, then you are in the wrong place.
Hmm.
100% because you're not growing. You're not growing hurts. Imagine being a tree pushing out of the ground. I can't imagine it's comfortable.
No.
An explosion starts your life as a
Mm.
tree. It can't feel
Right.
good. So, I mean, but so why are we trapped in that mindset of comfort?
Mm.
Well, why do we get stuck there then? If
Yeah.
if it's not good for us, why is
Yeah.
it so easy for us to get stuck?
Oh my gosh, I could go on and on about that. I feel like that's another podcast, but yeah, I mean, it's the lizard brain, right? I mean, it's how
Hmm.
we evolved, and we evolved to say like, no, 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 stay in the cave. It's safer here. There's lions out there, run, run away when you're scared, don't face that. Get out of there. And so, or fight and get angry. And, that's the other side of the coin. So I think there's so much that our minds are doing to keep us cocooned, right?
And it's
And
easy
so,
in society now to do
yeah,
that.
yeah, it really is. And I think that for my career trajectory, being there 22 years and being there with those people, I was in a bit of a cocoon. And once I stopped growing, I said, okay, I think I need to, this is time now. And I had a succession plan in place, the perfect people to carry the torch. But I think that, yeah, it is about safety and also avoidance, right? So we do things like watch Netflix, or, when we want to avoid feeling uncomfortable, when we don't want to think about that thing that is causing us mental pain or even physical pain and anguish as a result, right? So my lessons that I've learned over the last 3 years when I found community are that I need to feel that pain and I need to push through it. That's the only way to get rid of it, is to go through it instead of avoid it.
I
Look
want to
at it.
sit,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I want to sit on that for a second about
Yeah.
community. When I started my own company, right? So I come out of the army, I jump into the corporate world. I'm like, the corporate world sucks. I hate every second of this. I just want out. These people are insane. And so I jump out and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to become an entrepreneur, which I never am. If you were to ask me 4 years ago if I was going to be an entrepreneur, I would have laughed at you. Like, no, I don't want that. I don't want to deal with all that. But so anyway, I jump out, I become an entrepreneur. And first thing I did is looked for a community of entrepreneurs starting out. I looked for coaches that have been there, done that, and actively got involved with both those things because, like you, I knew that starting my own company was going to hurt. I knew it was going to be, I knew I was going to want to quit. And
Hmm.
so that's where the coaches and the community came in, is people that were going through that pain as well. So, because
Yeah.
misery loves company. And then the coaches to help guide you and pull you out of that pain and get you to the next step. Community is so vital. And I think society, the way, with social media and, Netflix and Amazon and everything is just instant. We don't even have to leave our house if we don't want to. We can
Yeah.
work from home, shop from home, live life from home, and we never have to have a single human interaction if we choose to. But that is such the wrong answer, because we need that community. Because if you're doing life alone, you're in for a world of pain that you aren't going to be able to manage unless you have someone else going through it with you, or someone
Yeah.
guiding you that's been through it. That's why we have midwives, right?
Yeah. Right.
So that they can help guide the mother through the insanity she's about to go through.
Right.
I can't do that. I've never been through it.
Right.
So, I mean, the community is just,
Yeah.
I could talk about, again, this is another podcast. I got to talk about
Yeah.
that for hours.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, Steven here. As we gear up for the new year, I've got something super special for you today. But before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and ring that notification bell so you can always experience the motivation and inspiration and the tips that we bring to you every single week here. Now let's talk about New Year's resolutions. How many times have you set a resolution only to have it fizzle out by the beginning of February or before January is even close to being over? Well, not this time. I've got a game-changing program that will teach you how to set goals that actually stick and that will propel you towards success in both your personal and professional life. Imagine saying goodbye to the cycle of failed resolutions. Picture yourself achieving what you set out to do And it's all possible with our proven methods that I've been perfecting for over 20 plus years. We'll be diving deep into the art of effective goal setting. And it's not just about writing down your goals, it's about a strategic approach that guarantees success. Go to renownleadership.com/goals to learn more. And let's make 2024 your best year yet. We only take 25 new goal setters every month, and spots fill up fast. So make sure you get yours today. And for this month only, if you use coupon code Renowned Goals at checkout, you'll get 20% off. Again, spots fill up fast, so make sure you get yours today. So if you're tired of the same old resolutions that never work, join us on this journey. Remember, goals are within your reach. Sign up now. Let's make 2024 your best year ever.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. And it's that I think too, we think mistakenly, this is what I've found, is mistakenly we think that our family, not that I don't love my husband and my kids, but we think our family is that community for us, that support system. And they are in some ways. But if they're not doing the exact same thing you're doing, like trying to start a business, then, it's not, and they're not elevating you, they're not like teaching you new
Mm-hmm.
things. How can your kids teach you? I mean, they do teach us lessons, don't get me wrong, but they're not the teachers. So I think you're absolutely right. And I think for too long I looked to I looked in the wrong places to try to find that. Not the wrong places, but I just didn't have that. I didn't understand that there was a powerful source out there of people that can really relate to you, who they start out being strangers and then you become extremely close together.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the community I found to help me start the business is exactly that. It's just a bunch of people I don't know, like just crazy. And within a month, they knew everything about me, and they were pushing me, guiding me, supporting me. And I've never once had a bad experience with it. And I was very selective with the community that I joined.
Mhm.
But I've never, and the funny thing is, and I've actually written about this in my blog, it strikes me so, it just blows my mind that the most support, and this is excluding my wife and my parents,
Right.
the most support that I've gotten for doing what chasing my dreams, renowned leadership is going to be a global brand one day. That is my goal. And I don't care if people know my name, but they are going to know my company's name. And um my wife is totally on board, obviously. My parents are super supportive. The rest of my family, they've said some
Yeah.
pretty hurtful stuff.
Oh.
And it's not that they're being mean to me. It's not that they meant to say something hurtful. They're trying to protect me. They're
Yeah.
trying, they think my dreams are a little too grand or whatever. But the community I'm in, nah. They're like, dude, that's it. You can dream bigger. You can go bigger, right?
Nice.
And,
Yeah.
and so, I mean, have you experienced that where like your extended family are like,
Yeah.
maybe you should pump the brakes a little bit, Joy, instead
Yes.
of going 100 miles an hour?
Yeah. And it comes from their limited lens. Like my own mom will be like, "Oh, so are you looking at other job opportunities yet? Are and I say, "Well, I'm staying open to job opportunities." "Well, I think that's a good idea. I think that's a good plan, Joy." It's their limited lens, and I'm trying to look at this from limitless possibilities, endless possibilities. We don't know what this will become. I'm giving myself, when I started this, I said, Joy, one of your values is going to be patience,
Mm-hmm.
because it takes time. It
It
really
does.
takes time. And so I've been trying to be patient. But the other one is adventure, right? Because I want to do new things,
Mm-hmm.
discover new territory, undiscovered territory. And I am. I mean, not in the physical realm, not climbing mountains, but it is all new to me. And so, I'm reading a book on how to sell because I don't know how to sell. I don't know how to sell myself. Like that's hard.
It is
Self-promotion
hard.
is requires vulnerability and braveness and and grow my network. My network was very insular being at the same company for 22 years.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to branch out and all of those things are just baby step after baby step after baby step, right? And you're
And
gonna
it is
make
hard. It's
yeah,
hard to
yeah.
stay focused when it's so slow.
Mhm.
But it is, and it's meant to be slow too, because when I don't remember the numbers, but I want to say it's like 85% of anyone that wins over $1 million from the lottery is bankrupt within 5 years or something like that, which is insane.
Wow.
But not really when you think about it,
Yeah,
because they went from like a poor to low middle class to extremely wealthy overnight.
yeah,
Whereas if they had taken the small, tiny, painful baby steps to grow that, they would have learned how to keep it.
right.
And it makes total sense when you think about it. And I'm actually surprised that the number's as low as it is.
Mm,
And so when you think of it that way. So
that's
I
really
mean,
that's a very, like, deep and poignant connection I'd never thought of. Yeah.
it's definitely, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to be willing to just be patient. And man, I can't tell you how many days I've come home, looked at my wife like, I quit, I'm done. And she usually is like, you're not a quitter. Yeah, you're right. Going back to the office.
Try
But I
something
mean,
else, figure
uh,
something else out.
right.
Yeah.
So I
Mhm.
mean, that's such a good point. So we're running out of time.
Sure.
This hour has blown by, but we can't leave until I get you to talk a little bit about kind of a mindset that you've kind of coined, which is solution focused leadership. Can
Mhm.
you explain that a little bit? Run us through it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I this is the way that I coach, right? So my coaching style, and there's executive coaching, right, is less of one where I'm going to ask you questions and you're going to come to an answer that's deep within you, that's already there. My questions are going to be around like, what are your practices? What are your behaviors? What are you doing? What problems are you trying to solve? And then we're going to work together on the answers. We're going to work together on best practices that I've seen work, and we can share like what you've tried that hasn't worked, and we can, sort of work out the kinks together. But I think until you know what the problem is, it's really hard to be that coach. And so I think that you know, we're not going to just throw spaghetti at the wall and see if it sticks, right? We're going to do a deep dive with you. And I equate it to, I watch my daughter, she's 14, she's on the club volleyball team. And she's got coaches. She's got coaches. She has someone working with her on conditioning. She's very serious. She takes the sport very seriously. But everybody needs a coach,
Mhm.
the kind of coach that says, and I feel like the kind of coach that's lacking in business is the one that's like, ah, okay, I see it. It's this, it's your final step before you lift off.
Mhm.
It's step, step, close, right?
Right.
It's just the tweaks to the form that you're doing that are needed. So I'm going to coach my people as if they were one of my direct reports. Tell
Mhm.
me what you're doing right now. What problems are you working to solve? What are the obstacles in the way? What are the bottlenecks? Like, let's see if we can, figure this out together.
That's so awesome. I'm very similar to that. When I started my business, like I said, the first thing I did was hire coaches,
Hmm.
because I firmly believe in not reinventing wheels.
Yes.
There's no need for it. Um, and so, one of my coaches was very like what you're saying. And then I had a coach that was pretty much a therapist.
Yes.
And it was so annoying. Like, just tell me what I need to freaking do. Like, stop it. I obviously don't know. Stop trying to dig it out of me. Just tell me. And so I cannot be that coach that, how does that make you feel type of coach? Like,
Yeah.
no, I don't do that. But I love what you said. And I say that to people all the time. People are like, why do I need a leadership coach, a business coach, a entrepreneurial coach? Like, why do I need a coach? And it's like, dude, like, what would have happened to Tom Brady after his third Super Bowl? He's like, you know what? I've done this 3 times. I think I got it.
Right?
Like, I guarantee you, Elon Musk has, maybe not coaches, but definitely like confidants, mentors, people to
Yeah.
run his ideas off of. Steve
Mm-hmm.
Jobs was famous for recruiting, if I can speak, people that he could just bounce ideas off of, that he
Yeah.
wanted to challenge him, that he wanted to tell him no. So I mean, everyone needs that. Arnold Schwarzenegger needs an acting coach,
That's
right?
right.
Tom Brady needs a throwing coach. Like, everyone needs a coach. So thank
Everyone
you for
needs a
that.
coach.
It's
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, like I said, Joy, we're running out of time. So before we do, I will go ahead and tell everybody how they can get a hold of you. Maybe get involved in your summer program, or get you out to their office to help them through some of these practices.
Sure. Yeah. So you can find me at leadingwithjoy.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn. So hit me up on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect. We can have a virtual coffee. Those are always fun. So just LinkedIn, Joy Mesever, leadingwithjoy.com. That's me.
All right, Joy. Again, everybody, as always, you know the drill. All her links are going to be in the show notes or in the bio, whatever platform you're on. Just scroll down, click on her links. Make sure you go to her website. Give her tons and tons of love. Once you're doing that, man, I cannot talk. Once you are done doing that, go to renownedleadership.com and give me tons of love, because I need all the love. All right, Joy. So everyone, all my guests on this podcast, they get the pleasure and the privilege of giving the final word of wisdom. So my final question to you is, what is your best advice for someone to lead like a champion?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you have to pick one.
I know. I'll just say that your people are a gift. So just like Stephen talked to you about, like, the tree that has to grow and how hard that is and how it had to have explosive growth, your job is to help water that tree, to make sure it has nutrients in the soil. So please grow your people into more leaders.
I love that. That is awesome. And thank you for including me in it. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap up this week's episode. Actually, correction, that is going to wrap up this special edition episode of the Renowned Leadership, because it's Christmas Day, everybody. I hope you all have a blessed Christmas Day. I hope you have tons of joy with your family, your children, your wife, your girlfriend, your husband, boyfriend, whatever the case may be. And make sure you go do a random act of kindness to some perfect stranger. Just go do something nice for somebody, whether it's help them carry their groceries or buy them a cup of coffee. And make sure you spread joy in this world as well. So that's going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much. I will see you next week. And in the meantime, everybody, don't forget, lead like a champion. Bye-bye.